labels. Labels make a living also when the bands are touring. You represent, most of you also, an effort to promote rising talent and not necessarily only famous bands, which, for those who could not understand the difference, mean a rising talent needs 200, 300 tickets maybe to make a living and to start something. A famous band needs above 1,000. And at the moment, where do we stand? So let's start from Bulgaria. What is the situation, Boyan, in general, and specifically for the live music sector? 2 minutes.
Wow. The live music sector was essentially became on hold after March 13 when lockdown came in. And that happened pretty much for 6 weeks. There was nothing happening. There was no plans. Local artists switched very quickly to doing shows, essentially streaming, doing live streams, but that really didn't go anywhere simply because nobody had thought to develop an audience for their live stream and for their social media. So when they decided to do a live stream, it was exactly for the first time. None of the kinks were worked out and people lost interest. People also didn't really want to pay for something like that. We dawdled for quite a while on how many people will be allowed in venues and whether it's going to be indoors or outdoors. The indoor venues closed completely. Now they're on their regular summer break and only outdoor shows can happen at a capacity of 50%. That includes essentially any outdoor venue of whatever capacity. One of our local pop stars did a show recently at less than 50% capacity. They spaced it out to 4 different shows. But we can see from that a lot of people simply didn't show up because they weren't exactly sure what to expect. They didn't know what the experience was going to be. So the uncertainty is not only kind of entered our lives and our mentalities, also entered the mentality of our audience members, which is the more dangerous thing. Essentially, my business stopped completely as of March. I was actually at Island Sea in London when the news broke out, so we knew when we arrived in London that this wasn't going to be just a regular meeting. A lot of people didn't really come. And so the local government did step up a little bit. I'm going to talk about the individual assistance to musicians. One of the local organizations, the Bulgarian Music Association, of which I'm a member, they through a great initiative, they actually they put out a survey. They conducted a survey with everybody that wanted to participate, freelancers, musicians, to see what their financial needs were. And as a result, the government, through the National Cultural Fund, which also funds our mobilities and potentially our conferences, they released 3 different stipend rounds, added up about 1.25 million euros each, and that benefited over 4,000 individual musicians. That gave them about 360 euros a month for 3 months. It's a small sum. You can kind of judge the scale of the industry by the sum that these people were given. They had to prove that they hadn't made more than 1,000 local Bulgarian lev or 500 euros a month in 2019, that they had to prove that with the tax document in order to qualify for this stipend. So the bar is set really low. That sparked protests from all the musicians that were making more than 500 euros, so that had to be addressed as well. And at the moment, we are trying to, as a musician guild, what we're just trying to do is just trying to find a place to hide while this blows over. There's small shows organized here and there along the boulevard outside or along the gardens for a limited amount of money so that people can at least make sure that they're active, they feel that they're active. Live streams have completely disappeared. Nobody's doing that anymore for any reason whatsoever. And now, in terms of larger shows, my business is entirely dependent on artists coming from other countries. And that is going to be an even bigger problem next year, especially with what's going on in the States. We're focusing now on attracting talent from Europe. Maybe, we don't need to sell 10,000 tickets, but we can go for that 1,000 ticket mark, which would make a show possible. And at the moment, we're struggling to actually get a show at the venue that we work at, the lovely Antique Theater in Plovdiv, First Century Theater. We're struggling to get a show on there this September. And we're hoping that with the assistance of the city and with the assistance of the local audience, this could potentially happen. But at this point, we really don't know. All events are postponed till next year, of course. And again, I am just keeping my fingers crossed, and we're doing everything we can to keep a cool head, plan for the future, cut costs wherever we can, and create new partnerships and bridges that are going to push us forward mentally and financially over this hump. Short
So
summary.
I don't know if you. It's going to be difficult to do a dialogue. I'm very sorry, guys, and to the audiences, because as I said, my internet goes really down. But I heard like there's a very positive output in Bulgaria as well. Uh, just to be sure, we'll do the same question also to Jolt, but as an Hungarian and not as a German, because I think it makes a point to see in this side of Europe what we can do. You were saying that, in fact, as you were usually involved in larger bands, overseas bands, and you were saying now Europe, UK is not in Europe, obviously, at the moment, due to the COVID and to the changes that are going to happen. So when you say Europe, and this will be maybe the focus that we'll have to innovate between us, is Europe at the moment maybe from Slovenia till Turkey, from Poland till Greece? Is this a kind of focus you will try to find first? Second, I didn't hear exactly what you said about the lives, but is it like 1/3 of the audience that is allowed at the moment? Is it stable? Do you
I mean,
change every week? Because, for example, in Greece, every week there's a change of situation.
oh, wow. For us, it's been 50%. It is up to the decision of the promoter and the artist whether they want more or less. And in this case, they decided to go with less, I think, so that people can feel secure and safe coming out to these shows. Because this particular artist, he plays to an audience of parents and children, so they want to make sure that moms can bring their kids and not be afraid of anything. Uh, Bulgaria in general is not really hard hit when it comes to a
Okay.
caseload, and so that is not that much a medical problem. It's more of a sort of a mental focus. As far as I'm concerned, Europe extends all the way through the UK as well, even though we can't really get people from the UK at the moment. We can't get people from Sweden, which is a shame for all heavy metal fans in Bulgaria, because Sweden is a big thing for us. But I see this now. The biggest thing that I see this is an opportunity for local bands to step up. It really, really is. This was something that we were going to talk
That
about
was.
next year, post Brexit, which is kind of a natural. It really is
Mhm.
an opportunity for local bands to step up and essentially start getting more recognition. Since UK is not going to be the biggest feeder of talent, and now the rest of Europe is not going to be the biggest feeder of talent on our local stages, then I think a lot of the local musicians will start getting some of their just deserved, maybe being recognized after so many years. Yeah, Bulgaria, like many other countries, is any foreign band gets a lot more attention than the local band. Maybe hopefully this will change. It has for me, but I look for new talent all the time. Um, I'm not sure if the person on
And
the
is
street.
it? And sorry to interrupt again. I hope I do not do that. I remember we had tried, to bring something that was something. Those great choirs, those usually the Les Mystères des Voix Bulgares. Now, what I was saying, and don't get me wrong, this will be a bridge to Anka. We'll go geographically, from Bulgaria now to Romania. Now, let's say that it was a kind of hint to say from Slovenia to Turkey and from South Poland to Greece, because we were wondering, people are wondering here, with logging from Skopje in northern Macedonia, with other persons, if the old way to do tour with a car will maybe be a solution for a few months. Anka, what about you in Romania? What do you expect to do? What is the current situation with live, with all kinds of live? And what can the professionals, I know it's not fair because music sector is really wide, but as we cannot speak about all the music sector, let's try to focus on live. So let's say 1-2 minutes, Anka, about the current situation and about the plans of the market to face the problem with the capacity, the restriction, etc., etc.
Well, currently in Romania, we are allowed to organize shows only outdoor. The maximum allowed number of people has to be 500, but only if the space allows the social distancing, the 2 meters everywhere. So basically each person needs 4 square meters. So if the space allows, you can have maximum 500 people. If not, you will have as many as as possible to uphold
So there's
the
a
regulation.
Flat rate. It's 500 no matter what. Even if you
No,
could
no, no, no.
use an
It's maximum 500 if you have the necessary space, so everybody can be at 2 meters distance to each other. So basically, concerts have started in clubs and in some outdoor venues in Bucharest and in some other cities of Romania. It's really weird, you know, with people sitting mostly because they have to sit, they are not allowed to stand. So people sitting, masks, you know, all over the face, you can only see their eyes. I imagine it's not very cool for the artist to see just pairs of eyes and know, you know, you don't see the expression on people's faces. You don't know if they smile, if they enjoy what they're listening and seeing or not. It's a surprise. But well, things are moving bit by bit. The problem is that in the last few weeks, the number of sickness has grew a lot. We have like every day around 1,000 people getting sick, not really sick, but infected in Romania. So this is the situation now. We don't know what the future will bring. Hopefully at some point, the number of infections will start slowing down and will start decreasing. So this is, I mean, the worst thing in all this is that you cannot foresee anything. The incertitude is eating everybody inside because you cannot make any plan. I mean, you know what you can do today, you don't know what you will be allowed to do next week or next month. So this is, I think, our worst problem right now. And I don't think it's only in Romania. I guess it's the same all over.
It's week by week in most of the countries, as we all know. We discuss actually every week there's a change in one city.
Exactly.
And so what are you up to? What do you think from the other promoters in Romania, from the producers, let's put the venue managers, the venue owners, the cultural centers, the festivals? What are they doing? What can they do?
Well, so far they are trying to comply with the current reality and the current regulations. Big festivals, I don't know, they don't have any hope for this year, so everything has moved to 2021. Hopefully everything is gonna get better in a year. So only small and medium bands and small and medium venues are working now and are able to organize concerts. And yeah, we're moving step by step. We are preparing again a few studies just to help the government assess better the situation and maybe be able to support better the music sector. And yeah, we hope for the best. As I said, you cannot plan. That's the worst thing. You cannot plan anything.
So maybe this is a bridge to Hungary, dear Zsolt. You also are from a small country, I guess, like for Bulgaria, Romania, and I didn't speak about Greece, but we are in a situation where we cannot expect from the governments. Our country, for example, anyway, went out of 10-year huge economic crisis, and like 1 year out, finally, 2, we were hoping, then this again. I mean, no matter the help and support from the government in Greece, it cannot be enough. It cannot be enough because even the big bands, they cannot play as well. We have the restriction, like in Romania and in Bulgaria. We have some stadiums, we have some things that have opened, but they are either too big for the small bands, either not big enough for the big bands. So people need to work as clusters, which will be the connection afterwards. But Zsolt, what is the situation in Hungary? and what is the market, or at least people, from the market, reacting, expecting, doing?
Okay. So the situation is quite the same as in Romania and Bulgaria. So the lockdown is from March or something, and it is a regulation that till August the 15th, it's allowed to have a concert and a gig with maximum 500 people. Today is we are waiting for the decision of the government, because today they will decide that what could happen after the 15th of August. So the whole industry is just waiting for this announcement, and we're not hopeful, because we just heard some rumors that they won't allow bigger concerts than 500. Maybe they will do more restrictions. So that will clear out tomorrow at the press conference of the government. The main problem is that this support, not just the financial support of the artist, because it doesn't exist. They just not the musicians, the authors just got 340 around 340 euros from the collecting society. Just imagine that amount of money. That how helpful could it be?
At a one-time?
Sorry?
Is that just a one-time, or
Yes.
is that every month?
No, just one time. And the biggest problem is because there isn't any financial support. The biggest problem is the attitude that the people just responded to this problem of the musicians that go to work. And that's the main point, that the people just thinking that the artistic activities are not a proper job.
Of course not. It's famous. Everybody's becoming very rich easily, and they are doing nothing, the musicians, of course. Sorry.
Yeah, we can see that we have lots of rich musicians in Hungary. So no, that's the main problem, because I just see what's happening in Germany, and comparing this country, that's the main problem. That's the attitude. It would be really helpful, for example, just to look at the musicians as our fellows in the country who are in a big trouble, or maybe a bigger trouble, and that could be really helpful if it could change. And right now, a lot of musicians and bands just tried the online events, as Bojan mentioned, but it wasn't successful, and they just hoping that maybe the digital platforms, the YouTube, Spotify will pay enough money, but it's also some kind of dream. For me, it's really important as the president of the Indies to take care of these record labels, these bands, these musicians, these managers. How could we be more helpful? Maybe with some informations or something, because we don't have money to help them financially, but we could provide some information. How could they have this? And for me, it's also important that I just see that some kind of gathering of the professionals is really remarkable in Hungary. We have this Music Hungary Association, and we have this department, the management department. And this management department just created a lot of proposals for the government, and they just sent it to the government with changing in taxation, with some kind of financial help regarding the former years, till the 50 or 60% of the former incomes. And just imagine that the state of secretary, this moron, just told at the press conference that the musicians are able to record a new music and they can sell CDs. You know, in 2020, this stupid guy just referring to the
Mr. President, behave.
Sorry, I can't. And because the profession, our fellow manager friends just doing a really good job, because they just collecting all of the data and they just creating a lot of proposals. So we're just waiting for a really, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, may I ask this now? So
yeah.
I think maybe a synopsis of what's happening in our countries is that we don't have the countries that can support the bands or the professionals, because our structures in our countries, I don't know about your countries, half of the scene in Greece is black, of course, not declared. Half of the professionals that are working are liberal professionals, which means they don't have contracts for the year ahead. So even if the government wanted to help us as a sector in general, it's not possible. And from what I understand, it's mostly the same. And this is a bridge to anyone that hears us at the moment, that it's bottom up and the other way around. We cannot expect in our countries, I think, at the moment, to have any strong support, because music sector in our countries is not yet at the point where the French music sector is, where the UK music sector is, with unions, with syndicates, with associations, etc., etc. I guess if we start to speak about the venues association, is there any venue association in your countries? Labels, who is in Impala? I know in Hungary, Romania, you are.
Let me add something. Sorry, George.
Please.
Let me add something,
Sure.
because we're just referring to the last year's total income of the live music sector. It's in, I can tell it in forint, it's more than 40 billion forints. So we just waiting for.
What is this in euro?
In euro, I will. Sorry.
More or less.
Less. Just.
Okay, of course.
Sorry.
No, what I meant is more or less, what is the turnover in euros?
Just wait a bit, because just talk.
Okay, I will talk a little bit more until Jolt finishes the calculations.
Until you find it exactly, it's what I wanted. Exactly. It's when we say we want to expect from Europe, but we cannot even expect sometimes from our governments. What we wanted to say today, more or less, is that maybe if our countries would have done more work, and when I say our countries, maybe it's us, the professionals. Now is the moment where we see that the associations and the unions, meaning the numbers, is very important, that we try to unite as sectors and we work together. Although some, let's say, achieved promoters have not time to do that, and the rising talents in general just think about doing live. Now, Anka, for example, myself and other people have already faced a first stage in trying to overcome. MMB today is a result of what, Anka? Can you tell us? This is a first step maybe on what we can do at the moment.
MMB today is the result
I don't know if you heard me, Anka.
Yes, I do. Do you hear me?
Yes, now yes, as well.
Good. So the result, the MMB today is the result of a financing that we could get from our Ministry of Culture And I can say that they have struggled to help the music sector as much as they could. But as George was saying earlier, I think the fault, if we want to find the fault somewhere, I think the fault is split 50-50 between the industry and the government, because we are not very well organized. We didn't know how to measure the impact that the COVID had on our industry. So it was really hard even to express some clear requests for our government, apart from, can you please help us? You know, yeah. And as many of, I mean, as all of you know, last week I guess there was this result of the meeting of governments at the European Union, and the amounts that each country will receive was decided, and there will be some billions coming our way. It's really important how this money will be split and where will they get. So hopefully, we hope here that some of it will come to the culture in general, not only to the music industry, because we actually were banned to do our jobs for at least 2 months completely during the lockdown, and now only a small part of the industry can work and can make money, and it's really a problem. And it's not only music, it's also theater, it's also cinema, etc., etc.
But sorry, just to try and shake the audience, and I'm very sorry for this bad signal. I barely hear you. We always say the keywords music industry. So we are in culture. We know culture is most of the time from the Ministry of Culture a funded sector, where often you hear, no, this is art, but we are the music industry. And if we want to behave like the music industry, those of us who will survive, let's be honest, because it's going to be very difficult, don't you think it's the time that we finally go and get the numbers? Because the only way to become an industry like cinema is to bring the numbers and to say tourism means this, rehearsal studios mean that, venues means this, PA, backline. We need to start doing something on this. If we want maybe to survive, don't you think it's the moment that we create an industry sector in our region? There's no way out. And at small scale, again, to our audiences, we need to work together. This is the only way to survive. We need to build complementary things on our own, for our own selves, but we need to work together with others to take the numbers and then go to the Ministry of Labor, go to the Ministry of Economy, and then go back to the Ministry of Culture. This is something that starts in Greece, finally, due to the crisis. Is this something you are trying to do in Romania? And then please, we'll go to Bojan. Anka.
Yes, actually, the Ministry of Culture has initiated a lot of discussions between them and different sectors of the music industry, and then they were like a bridge between us and the Ministry of Labor and the Ministry of Finances. But still, we were not very able to give them all the data they needed. And now, hopefully, I know they are willing to do a study about the music industry, about the numbers in the music industry, about what's in the private sector, about what's in the independent sector, about freelancers, public sector, everything, so they can have a pretty clear image of what's happening in the cultural sector in Romania. So, in the end, if you don't have the numbers, you don't even know how important you are. And I think the music industry is important because, as you were saying earlier, it's one of the departments of the culture that makes money. We are in the commercial business of music, and we are making money, and we're paying taxes, and so yeah, we have to really be able to show that to our governments.
And I think everyone, I mean, from the kids which dream to become a band, to those who dream to have a distribution label, to those who want to have a studio. Everybody at the moment should understand that there is a 5-10% of your personal time where you need to go and work to get data. If we want to hope and go back on tracks, make a living without the subsidiaries from the government, because I guess we all understand that with the upcoming crisis, the financial crisis, the governments and the billions of euros that have come from the European Union will go to those who can prove that they had numbers. So, one thing everybody needs to understand is do what you know, do what you love, but also start and focus on doing association. Get interested by the damn numbers. Nobody of us wanted to do Excel and PowerPoints and stuff like that when we all started, I guess, the business, but now it's what we do when we want to do an event. And then if you learn how to do this, I guess that goes for Boya now also a little bit, you will find ways, as we did in Athens Music Week, Anka, Jolt, everyone, we knew we could not monetize because we are in a small country. We know we could not even dare to do streaming with a ticket. We knew this year would be okay, but how are we going to offer free events online eternally if we cannot make income? First thing. Second thing, in our countries, we cannot do income from this. So what do? We need to become more international. So it needs to take some parts of others, French, Germans who are already international. And we need to do all this at the same time on the side of our everyday business. What do you do, Boyan, in your countries? What do you think is the best way to get support? Do you need to do something yourself first, maybe, before being able to get the support?
Pretty much. The idea of government support and government grants is a relatively new idea. Um, the several of the problems you already described. Attitude, as Jolt said, we don't have the numbers because we don't have an organization to collect them. And so most of the time, while we're juggling our daily jobs so that we're able to make a living out of what we do, we also have to serve as community organizers. And of course, herding artists is pretty much like herding cats. It is near impossible. This situation, the pandemic, and coupled with there's local protests happening in the country, day 22. I have no idea. I lost why there is a protest. But that always keeps pushing the priority away from what we want to talk about. We want to talk about, the fact that musicians are valued, their creators are valued, musicians, theater, dance. We always turn to these things for comfort. We always want to listen to our favorite local song, but now our local musicians don't have anything to do. So with the help of some musicians that were a little bit dissatisfied with what they received from the government, some small organizations started bubbling up and they started asking the right questions for the first time. You and I, Sir George, had this conversation 5 years ago when we first met. Why we don't have enough local organizations is because people were satisfied with their small lot, and now that small lot has been taken away from them entirely. So now it's make it or break it time. This is the right time. What I've managed to do is convince a few other idealists and romantics that we need to have a big organization. And we actually wrote a proposal for the first local showcase and conference, hopefully for next year. It was, as far as I'm concerned, about time. And you can tell that we are sort of trying to catch up in terms of organization and in terms of attitude. Those are our biggest issues, and it does take time. I want things to go a little faster. We want the musicians to also lead the charge. We can't really lead it for them 100%. We want the musicians to also lead the charge for recognition. We want them to see their self-worth, and we want them to meet their colleagues from the neighboring countries.
They need to understand the keywords like entrepreneurial spirit. We don't want you to become Madonna, all of you, but everyone needs to understand that beside being an artist, you run a small business, correct?
Absolutely. Well, that conversation is very, very small, the fact that it's a business. Right now, what we're trying to do is develop trust in the sector and in the regional sector by essentially me showing Mastering the Music Business, Athens Music Week, Bush in Hungary, all the lovely other events that are happening. So I'm trying to tie all this together into an informational package that will empower people and they can get inspired by it. And so far, there's been a few seedlings that happened. People are starting to get interested because now they have time to look at these things. Before, they were just as busy as we were, just didn't have time. But now, hopefully, we can actually get something going that is all regional. Everybody can meet here in Sofia for the first time. It's just a matter of time. It will happen. I just don't know if it'll happen next year for a variety of reasons that we can't predict. But this is our best foot forward.
I'm, I'm stepping on this, Boyan, to say like we can expect support or collaborations. Let's not use the word support. Let's forget about sponsoring and support. Let's think about business partnership and collaborations. Let's all think like Anka, Jolt, yourself, and myself, which dared straight away to do things that were considered impossible a few months ago. What we did with Anka, for example, and Jolt, we combined the Facebook communities so that we could promote the events, buying the Facebook clicks for 10 cents instead of 80 cents. We all managed also to buy together licenses for Vimeo streaming. And why we and we were all, let's say, in a way, stepping on each other's fields, but being alone at the moment is just impossible. And if you do this, then somebody of you will be eligible. Somebody of the company will have some, let's say, financial capacity. And if you have the financial capacity, then after 1 or 2 years, you can also go and apply on national structural funds, what they call, those subsidiaries, not a support from COVID, an investment opportunity from the state, where you don't have to be an artist anymore, but you have to run a small business with your accounting, with your projections financially, and the risks you will take. And when you do all this, well, you need money for the graphic designer, for the press officer, for everything. So the only way to succeed at the moment is to try and do some complementary things. Jolt, what do you think? Do you think there are alternatives at the moment in order to try and get some support or to make some turnover? Because you can do turnover as well, but how can we do turnover in live if we cannot sell tickets, if we cannot sell F&B, if we cannot sell? We have 2 minutes left, people saying. So are there alternatives to get support?
Yeah, go to work.
Mr. President.
Yeah, go to work. No, right now we don't see any kind of alternative for getting more money, because from 2007, 6, 7, the music industry just tried to find the new ways, the new structure of the music industry. We have these digital platforms. We have the live industry, what just generates the more than 60% of the incomes for the musicians. So we have to restructure the whole industry, and it's the time is almost over. So as an association, as a president of an association, we have to collect these needs. We have to collect all of the professionals and to have common messages to the governments, to the EU, and everybody. So.
Okay, and maybe, I don't know if Anka will leave us. We have a question. What type of grants can artists or artistic agencies access from the EU? I can answer it if somebody else can also answer it. On my knowledge, there is no grant from EU for artists. There are grants for companies. Now, if it's an agency, if it's an artistic agency, again, the grants from EU would come from projects. You need to create projects for the EU. So suggest an alternative for artists, suggest a very specific and ambitious project that can lead to the generation of income from artists, and this you could apply to EU. For this is to answer to those persons who have asked. There are no grants from EU to support. The grants to support are from the states of every government. EU is here to support networking projects. So this has to be clear for everyone. And also, EU is not free money. There's a procedure. So you rather start with small projects, small scale projects between 5 partners usually, and that's the way EU works. Now, as for the projects of EU, there are hundreds. There are those from Creative Europe, there are those from Horizon, there are those from Erasmus+. So if any one of those artists or music agencies would like to find out, they can send questions also to Anka and to MMB. But also you have in each country EU help desks that can give you a lot of support. Other questions maybe for? I don't see any other questions. Anka, can we make a sum up? Do we have some time to make a sum up? Yes, you say? I don't see you. Yeah. So as a conclusion, maybe Bojan is doing something with a lot of collaborators. Zsolt with Central Party, with Hale in Hungary, Anka with MMB and Row and all the other colleagues. All of us with Athens Music Week in Greece, Nehemi, all of us have done consortiums and alliances. You can call them clusters. You can call them consortiums when it's about business. You call them uniting networks when it's artists. In every case, people need to lower the expenses to generate alternatives way to manage and resist the time. Everyone believes that physical will come back, but we have some time until then.
Exactly, and let's
the
collaborate.
Use the digital.
Let's collaborate.
Yes, Anka,
I think this is the best way. Let's stick together and collaborate, and let's start doing things for ourselves instead of waiting somebody else to do things for us. And I think now we have to go.
Sincerely.
Yeah,
Thank
and
you,
now we
guys.
have to go. Thank you guys very much.
Very
Nice
much.
to see you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
And next time physically.
Yes.
Sorry for the bad connection. Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.